You got this, Ryan?
Yes.
You good to go?
Yes.
You got this, Ryan?
Yes.
All right.
Okay. What am I doing? Welcome to Korracast.
We're gonna talk about episode 9, titled The Stakeout.
August 7th is the last day to enter in for our Bolin Mustache contest. So make sure you have your entries finished and send it to facebook.com/Korracast if you want a chance to win a 2014 Comic-Con Korra poster. Alright, let's talk now. Before we get into the meat of this episode, I just want to say that I'm happy that we saw more spirits.
Yeah.
Even if it was just in the capacity of wildlife, basically, is what they were reduced to. But it was nice after just talking about it. We wanted to see more spiritual action. That happened. But also, did everyone forget that Zuko was hanging out with Eska and Desna this season? Because that's the next thing I want them to revisit.
Yeah, they haven't gone back to them in a while.
Let's talk about what the real important things are.
Well, wait, can we go back to the less important things?
Sure.
Okay, I really like the fact, okay, so we're back at the Misty Palms Oasis. We were there, in the original Avatar series.
Yeah.
And, when we learned, that was kind of the first thing we kind of learned about the White Lotus. And, Iroh used Pai Sho. And then we see Bolin and Asami have, a crazy Pai Sho match.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of cool to go back, and see Pai Sho again.
I mean, we just said how that was maybe the lesser thing, but I think that was the meat of the episode. That's the Pai Sho. The Pai Sho was the meat of the episode. That was maybe my favorite sequence in the entire series.
With
of Korra
Asami and Bolin.
Asami and Bolin playing Pai Sho. That worked. It was so brilliant on so many levels.
It's the same idea, but there's different ways to interpret it.
Yes, everything that happened in that sequence had some ramifications. It was a microcosm of everything that's happening in the core of the show.
Yeah.
And it was just so well done. It was and even the music, if you were paying attention, it was such an interesting sound to it, and just kind of how they kind of cut it all together. I don't know. I really love that sequence.
I really think that these last few episodes, I mean, this whole season's been great, but I think somewhere between this episode and the last one, I really kind of feel like this show is hitting its prime. There's stuff going on in the season that's better than what was in Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'm gonna say that right now.
I disagree respectfully. Avatar's story felt very, seasons 1 through 3 all felt like one self-contained story. It seems like through each season of Korra, we've had a different story.
At the beginning of this show, it did feel like everything was kind of self-contained stories, but the reveal that Korra was in her compound at the beginning of season 1 because of the Red Lotus, tying it back to this story. Mm-hmm. The reveal of Unalaq's intentions and then betraying the Red Lotus, it's tying it back to this story.
True.
I mean, really, maybe this is all one big thing, and maybe it wasn't a master plan at the beginning, but now that they knew they were getting more seasons, they're figuring out all these little ways to tie all the seasons together.
Right, and
okay.
Obviously, everyone, like you're saying, everything is connected storyline-wise, and different characters are connected like that. But thematically, we're also seeing a lot of connections too, right? What was the objective of pretty much everyone is to find some sort of balance, some new kind of balance, right? And even going back to Amon, I'm really curious to see if they're ever going to connect that back in, because his whole thesis was to find balance,
right? And
to get rid of benders so that it's even playing field.
And every season so far has been about some antagonist saying, I don't like the way that our society is being run. Every single season so far. Yeah. So really, I think that this whole story has more in common with each other than you're giving it credit for.
Yeah, I mean, and also the authority figures that it constantly, is very subversive in its subject of dealing with those. And it goes back to, I think, episode 3, the Earth Queen of this season. And it's an important line, significant line, when there's those bands of thieves that they were stealing tax money from or something in Korra, which I kind of kept thinking we were going to go back to those guys, but we haven't yet. Anyways, they flee off and they go, you're going to realize, Avatar, you're on the wrong side of this. And then she says, why do I get the feeling he might be right? And this is exactly what they're she might be on the wrong side of this. And again, it goes back to the Pai Sho it's just so layered and interwoven.
And at this point, I'm starting to wonder which side is actually correct. I mean, maybe their tactics are wrong, but I'm starting to maybe think that the end of the season might not be so cut and dry. We defeated the Red Lotus because they were the bad guys, and that's that. I don't know. I'm actually kind of thinking there's an
it-
opportunity to do something more complicated here.
It depends, I think, on the time. I mean, like, at some points, a regime needs to be in order, but sometimes when there's a corrupt government, it needs to be torn down. Like, governments, if it gets too corrupt, when the Earth Queen, obviously, she is not the right person to lead. She's not the right person to lead the Earth Kingdom. She needs to be taken out. I'm not saying killed, but she needs to be replaced. And so, I mean, like, it's just really everything that's happened so far, and also we learn that, remember, because Sue was saying that, like, the Earth... Sue... What am I trying to say? Sue and Zahir were saying basically the exact same thing, where it's like we need to just tear down the regimes.
They said almost line for line.
Which,
I think I saw an image on
further
Tumblr
adds,
that showed side by side their scenes with their subtitles. They said almost the exact same thing in 2 different episodes.
Which further adds to that.
The idea of an Earth Queen is an outdated concept. I think they both said something along the lines of outdated, which is not by accident. That's on purpose.
Which I'm interested to see. So, a president, I mean, that's something totally different than a king, you know? I mean...
Right.
We don't consider Obama to be the king of the United States. He's the president. So I mean, like, that's not an outdated thing. It seems like that's a new and that's an advanced form of government leadership. Right. So is that something that even the Red Lotus wants to tear down, or is it just?
Well, they did talking about taking out.
Yeah,
the
they're
president.
talking about taking him out. Are they trying to take him out because he's corrupt, or are they just going to?
Or because he's the president.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get into.
I don't know.
Well, I think they are partially because they said like anarchy kind of is what they want. They think that chaos is the natural state of things.
I really think that's probably, to me, one of the most interesting things going on right here, because they put an emphasis on how enamored he was by this this guru from the Air Nation, the Air Nomads. Mm. The Air Nomads, they were nomadic people. They didn't really have a government. Now, maybe because of the fact that they could fly, their culture lent themselves more to being able to roam around and being more free spirits. But I feel like from the original show, we always had this impression that the Air Nation were peaceful. They were like the best, like most wholesome of the 4 nations that you can get. And because partially they were all slaughtered, you think of them as innocent. But our antagonists this season are looking up to that idea to, further their goals.
Right, and I'm curious though, because you're kind of talking about their methods, and you made some comment about them being not entirely pure or despicable or whatever. Right. I mean, I'm kind of thinking about it the opposite way. If we call the Red Lotus or whatever the kind of anti-team avatar, well, what if we did replace it with the characters from the original series? And they're going around breaking their friends out of jail, like, we would be behind them, right? Because we see that happen.
Right.
We break our friends out of jail in the first series, right?
Yeah.
Boiling Rock, yeah.
And what they have...
Actually.
And in every other episode.
When Toph is in jail, and when Aang is in jail.
Right.
I just thought the Boiling Rock came out of it.
And that's them working against the established government, right?
Right.
And uprooting it. So, I mean, what really have they done that we can really wag our finger at?
Right.
I guess they were planning to kidnap. They were planning to kidnap Korra, obviously against her will.
Yeah,
that's maybe that, because
I agree. I think you're right. I think this one, more than the other antagonists of the Korra season, they're not going to pull the rug out from under us and go, "Oh, look, I was a Mon. I was really, a bender and a liar all along. Oh, I was Unalaq. I had a." These guys. Ideally, I like to see them actually hold true to kind of what they're about, and they're not going to be, "Oh, we really just want money and whatever,"
Right.
So,
I can't see that happening.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I think, though. Too, all of this conversation, all of this about the grays and the between chaos and order and stuff, is really just again towards the audio of this age of Korra. This is a teenage. These are all teenage. You're coming up. You're becoming an adult. You're challenging authority, as opposed to the Aang. You're a child. It's romantic. There's black and white. It's good. And again, it's just constantly reinforcing. Like, look, there's not going to be always a right answer and a wrong answer. And these choices are far more important in, I think, this series. And I think these last couple episodes, that's why I love them so much. Is because it's finally like, oh man, this is what this, I want this series to be about.
And that, going back to what I said about maybe there's aspects of this that I like better than the original series. There's no point in the original, well, maybe not no point, but I pretty much had an idea of how that series was going to end. They were going to take down the Fire Lord and restore balance. This, I don't really know. That's what I'm saying. It's a complex of a story enough where I don't really know what's going to happen. And that, I think, is an achievement. Okay, so this episode ended on a pretty cool cliffhanger. Everybody's
happy. Everyone's doing good.
Everybody's in a good place in their lives.
Yeah.
So Korra's finally been captured, We got a little bit more information about what the Red Lotus's goals and mission statement kind of are. So our question this week is, why do you think they specifically need the Avatar to accomplish their goals? So get this conversation reopened. Start talking about it. You do that. Anything else? Is there anything else we have to say?
We didn't even really
check out our Korras on the face.
Korracast.com.
Don't go
Korracast.com.